Owen, just for the benefit of the tape, just get the detail you like up in the super. The editor, isn't it, of Air and Travel magazine?
That's it. Owen Corry, editor of Air and Travel magazine.
Perfect, Owen. Owen, we've had this system now in place since since March 26th, and obviously there was a huge lot of controversy in advance of it being finally introduced. It's already been dogged and beleaguered in all sorts of controversy since it got up and running. There's talk this week now of it expanding it to further EU countries, potentially the US, which was obviously knocked off the list last week of going down that road. But what's your assessment of this whole system at the moment? Is it actually working? Is it effective?
There were a lot of tripwires with this, and we seem to have stumbled over quite a few of them. I think most of the things that could have gone wrong with mandatory hotel quarantine have gone wrong. The next question is, how do we reverse out of the situation we've gone into? I think within the cabinet, there was a strong feeling that this would be just a populist measure, rather than something based on data on having any effectiveness in what it's setting out to achieve, which is keeping variants at bay and reducing our own infection rate.
So do you think it's time that, as you put it, reverse out of this system that we have in place? Is it time that we just ended this hotel quarantining system?
It's absolutely important we don't extend it to other countries. It's also important that we put a date by which we mean to exit hotel quarantine. We are diverging from the other European members countries with this. The inalienable right to travel, which is something that is central to the European Union, if it's going to be questioned, it generally has to be questioned on a case-by-case basis. I think that there's certain legal concerns that we're not doing it with this legislation. We've put into question 3 really important trade routes to Asia, the ones through Dubai, Abu Dhabi and Doha, which are going through red list countries. We've put the 2 countries with the highest vaccination rate in the world, Israel and the United Arab Emirates, on our red list. We've also sent a shudder through our 3 major air export routes through Chicago, Boston and New York, with the suggestion that the USA might be added to the list. And we sent out a message to 4 of our 6 biggest inbound tourism markets that visitors are not welcome. Obviously, in the short term, that isn't that big a problem. But if we're sending out a long-term message while the rest of the world recovers, that could come back to haunt us.
Just based on what you're saying there, Owen, is it fair to say so in that case that we're nearly doing more damage to ourselves with this system in place than it actually is going to be worth at the end of the day?
A huge amount of damage has been done by COVID-19 to our industry, to our exports, to our trade routes and to connectivity. What mandatory hotel quarantine is completely self-inflicted new set of damage that we're embarking about doing. It's not the biggest problem in the world because it's not peak travel time and it's not a time when it's been in long enough to do real damage. But it is really important we stop pandering to populism and set about putting measures in place which tackle COVID and not tackle connectivity and travel.
And a point I think you made recently that we're now effectively one of the most disconnected countries in the world as a result of going down this road. And at the end of the day, we are an island and connectivity is crucial for us.
We're not just an island, we're a very unusual island. We're at an island at the centre of a major economic zone with the United States on one side and Europe on the other. Connectivity is everything we've built our prosperity, our recent prosperity on. And we have dismantled that to an alarming degree. The Eurocontrol network does compile on a weekly basis where air connectivity is in comparison with 2019. And of the 40 countries, we have done the most to dismantle our connectivity. Wouldn't be as big a problem if things like foreign direct investment and exports were so central to our economy. That makes us quite different from some of the other countries that have brought in mandatory hotel quarantine.
Can I just ask, what do you think that should be put in place instead of a mandatory hotel quarantining system? What kind of approach do you think we should be taking?
Really important we keep monitoring inbound passengers. The requirement that everybody should arrive in the country with a negative test has been very helpful, and it's pretty much standard for what other countries are introducing across Europe. The fact that we don't trust that testing is almost unique to Ireland, and the fact that we're preparing to put people into mandatory quarantine who have tested negative, and sometimes on more than one occasion, and are coming from countries with the highest vaccination rates in the world, raises questions about that. The self-isolation at home has been enormously useful. There have been questions raised as to how that is being policed. But what we've seen over the last year is policing less done by people in blue uniforms than with teenagers with iPhones. It's very hard in rural Ireland to do anything without being noticed by the neighbours. The system has been very effective. I know lots of people who travelled and carefully did their self-isolation. I also know hoteliers who put up people who didn't have addresses to go to. And I also know of people who are not coming from red list countries in the last few weeks who have, because they're unable to isolate at home, checked into usually self-catering, Airbnb or isolating territory. There is a high degree of compliance with this from the beginning. That has been useful, and returning to that should not be that big a problem, although there certainly has been a hue and cry for mandatory hotel quarantine, which has created situations of confrontation that probably should not have been put in place in the first place.